everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday show. My name is James Chen, aka Jay Chenzor. Before we get this episode started, I just want to apologize about the sound quality. This was before I got my new Elgato microphone, so apologize. There's so many like cuts and drops and stuff. Hopefully it's still tolerable and the episode is still enjoyable. This is your source for all sorts of fun topics about the fighting game community. fun topics. And the first thing you see up here is hate. So let's get into this just so people know exactly what I'm talking about here. Tekken 8 Guilty Gear Strife hate sounds like my game is better than yours. No, this time we're actually talking about the longtime fans of the game really being frustrated with the current iteration of their game. And even though I've listed it as Tekken 8 and Guilty Gear Strive here specifically, this is actually true for Street Fighter and for Mortal Kombat as well, and for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like, I have seen all sorts of conversations from all sorts of people being really frustrated with their current game. And this is really starting to come to light on social media right now. I mean, I have these two listed here because I had intended to talk about this 2 weeks ago. As you guys probably saw, it was on my topics list last time. I never got to it. And then for one reason or another, I couldn't stream last week. So now I can finally get to it. So a lot of those tweets are kind of missing right now and might have calmed down a little bit. But I've been seeing Tekken players and Strive players complaining about their game a lot recently. And, you know, one of the reasons why I want to highlight these two games in particular, these two series in particular right now, is because Tekken and Guilty Gear have, before Tekken 8 and Guilty Gear Strive, they were, without question, sorry, my cousin Vinny lied. Since I said that, that's the first thing that came to my head. This is like another 2 weeks in a row I've been thinking of my cousin Vinny. I need to watch that again. But the thing about it is, like, they were the two most legacy-heavy fighting games out of all the fighting games. And yes, were games like Exurg different than XX? Yeah, absolutely. Because the Roman cancel system was so lenient. And people probably don't realize this, but you couldn't just Roman cancel wherever the hell you wanted in the XX days, right? You could only Roman cancel like when you were hitting people, like normally buffering a move. So you couldn't whiff a button and then Roman cancel and save yourself, right? You only were able to start that in Exurg. That's why forced Roman cancels or false Roman cancels in Guilty Gear XX were such a big deal, because these were Roman cancels that you could do at any time, like even on with or on hit, etc. Right. And so, yeah, even Major Obama always said that Strife didn't feel, wait, which one are you talking about? But yeah, like XX and Exurg had some differences, but regardless of those differences, you know, people are going to tell you it still felt like a Guilty Gear. It was still a very vertical heavy game. It was, the air dashes were significantly quicker. There was way more defensive options. You know, the Gatlings were more freeform than they are in Strive, even though throughout the years they've really added a lot of leniency to the Guilty Gear Gatling system. But, you know, regardless, you know, as much as, so I did a whole video a couple of months ago where I was basically arguing that Guilty Gear Strive was still a Guilty Gear game. And boy, the comments on YouTube were like, this is not even Guilty. This is such a different game. It's completely different. And my whole point was that, yes, it's different. And would I say it's the biggest change between games that has ever occurred for Guilty Gear? Absolutely. Because they also took away a bunch of special moves. They took away a lot of old school glitches, like the fast fall for Faust using jump 2K, plinking it with the faultless defense canceling, faultless defense canceling for Faust, for Chip, etc., etc. They changed a lot of stuff. They took away a lot of things that used to exist in old Guilty Gear games. Again, let me get to Tekken as well, because Tekken is kind of in the same position right now. People really, really hate the heat system. Holy crap, they really hate the heat system. Because the heat system is very powerful. It's very strong, and it's very offensive, and it's very it's aggression. They literally said that in their previews for Tekken 8 when they were revealing more information about it. They're like, aggression is the word, because they were saying that, a lot of people felt Tekken was too defensive and kind of boring, and they wanted to change that, right? And, amidst this whole argument about Tekken 8 and Tekken 7 have been people actually posting up like, are you kidding me? Do you remember what Tekken 7 was like? And people would post clips, and I never noticed this, but yeah, it was seriously like, come in there, try a poke, fail, backdash, come in, try something, backdash, try something. Like, this was like the game, right? Like nothing was actually happening. And, some of the older school players are saying, like, older Tekken games had much more forced close range combat, right? One of the reasons being is that getting up off the ground is a lot easier since Tekken Tag 2 and Tekken 7, because the back roll was a lot safer and all this stuff like that. Before, in Tekken, like, every direction you tried to get up in, you could be called out on and relaunched. Like, that was kind of like a thing in Tekken. Obviously, different characters could only relaunch on certain ways and stuff like that, but it was really hard to get up off the ground. So Oki was really scary, and if they called you out on a wake-up, decision, you basically never let the guy get up, etc., etc. And like, people, they made it simpler to get up off the ground. And you know what? It increased the popularity of the game. More people were able to play the game. They didn't feel like they were destroyed on the ground. Whereas Street Fighter V went the opposite direction. And then everybody was like, I can't get up off the ground in Street Fighter V. What the hell? And you know what? During that period of time, Tekken's popularity, Street Fighter's popularity, I should do this. Tekken's popularity, Street Fighter's popularity, pew, right? I mean, like, there's something to be said about, having strong Oki in games. And so, I'm sure that's what Daisuke was trying to do with Guilty Gear Strive, because Oki in old Guilty Gear games is one of the most terrifying things in existence, right? Like, if you play Exert is, like, literally Exert can be defined by knock them down, put shit on top of them, make them guess. Like, everybody had that ability. Even when they tried to buff Potemkin, they made Trishula into Roman cancel, so the Trishula flame would still come out, so that they had to deal with that, and then with the mix-up, and then Milia would drop a disc on you, Raven would throw things, Kumei Hyun would put a fireball on you. Like, every single character was put a projectile on you, good luck, have fun. And so, like, I'm sure that's what they were trying to get rid of, a lot of that in Guilty Gear Strive. And also, corner pressure in Exert was terrifying as well. So they added the wall break, right? So they made it so that at least you reset to neutral more often, because they didn't want players to feel trapped in the corner all the time. Point being is that, sorry, I was talking about Tekken, and a lot of Tekken players are mad with the way that Tekken is being played currently, and like, some people are like, here's how I would fix it, and all they're doing is just trying to turn it back to Tekken 7, right? They're just trying to turn it back to Tekken 7. And so again, these two series, despite the fact that they've changed a lot during the course of time, but you even saw it with Tekken 4. Man, they tried to shake up Tekken in Tekken 4. They lowered the damage, the 3 movement was bigger, they had environmental hazards and things that you could punch and blow up and all this stuff all over the place. People hated that game. Now, granted, it did come out in a time in which we didn't have a lot of patches, and that game clearly had a ridiculous strong top tier, which didn't help the Tekken 4 game. People who know more about Tekken 4 can explain it to me a little bit better. But man, dude, Tekken 4 at Evo was miserable. That's where the whole you go get lunch during Tekken Top 8 came from because of Tekken 4, man. Oh my god, it was so bad. But again, like, even though the games have changed a lot over the course of time, Strive and Tekken 8 might be the biggest departures, right? But it's interesting because for me, as a person who's played Capcom fighting games for so long, like, it just doesn't phase me, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, like, you suck it up, losers, get used to your fighting game change. But, like, you know, people will talk about, like, some of the obvious ones, the Alpha 1, the Alpha 2, the Alpha 3, right? Like, those are even within the same series. They're not even sequels. like here's the next iteration. Like, this is literally, they're all the alpha games, but Alpha 1, Alpha 2, and Alpha 3 can't be more possibly different from each other. Like, all three games have completely different feels, completely different ideas, completely different strategies, and just, like, they're not even the same games at all. If you're not familiar with Street Fighter, you'll be like, that looks the same. Like they all look the same to me. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. They are all wildly different games. And then even before the stream started, when I was just kind of riffing and talking with the chat, in case you guys don't know that before the show starts, I often just sit here and talk with the chat. So if you guys ever want to jump live and watch, you know, follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/jchensor, Blue Sky. I'm also jchensor there as well. You can join my Discord as well. And I'll tell you when I'm about to stream. It was Tuesday, but I like talking with people. So if you want to ask questions and riff with me as well, you could do that. We were talking about Darkstalkers, and let me tell you, Vampire Hunter to Vampire Savior. Okay, even though Vampire to Vampire Hunter were two very different games, when you went from Vampire Hunter to Vampire Savior, like, if for those people who don't actually know the Darkstalkers games very well, the difference with your character between Vampire Hunter and Vampire Savior could change wildly. Like, Victor literally lost, like, almost his entire moveset. Like, all of his special moves were gone. Like, what did he retain? I guess he retained the knee, although you had to do it as a DP instead of quarter circle back. He did keep the lariat, didn't he? I think he still had the lariat. But, like, two of his most famous special moves, the one where he charges forward with his fist or when he charges forward with the kick, which completely gone. And they were replaced by this weird move where he charges forward and his head grows ginormous. Like, dude, Felicia is known for the rolling buckler. People remember the rolling buckler a lot, right? She doesn't have the rolling buckler anymore, right? Am I wrong on that? Does she still have the rolling buckler? She doesn't have the hoppy pouncy move. She doesn't have the sand splash. She doesn't have the sand splash. So I think she still had the rolling buckler, but she lost the sand splash, which is another one of those moves that's really a signature move of Felicia, where she just did the, you know, that thing, which I always called the milk spray, because this was back in the day when Tom and Jerry influenced all of our knowledge of cats, and we thought cats actually liked milk. Even though most cats are lactose intolerant. So I call it the milk spray, but it's the sand splash, right? The sand splash was gone. It's just gone, signature move gone, right? Like, and gave it this weird new toy touch move, you know, like Neko punch move, I should say. Like, the characters changing from Vampire Hunter to Vampire Savior was just wild. I mean, you basically, like Bishamon, like, he used to throw his sword, and then they changed it so that he only threw the spirit, which I get, because Bishamon was busted in Vampire Hunter. He was so broken in Vampire Hunter. Oh my god. But again, you know, coming from these backgrounds, you know, having these games change that much is old hat for me, right? So, you know, when I sit here and I see the changes to Strive, I'm like, cool, it's a different game. Let's go. Let's learn it. You know, it's still Guilty Gear to me because it's still a lot of the characters. It still has a lot of the same ideas behind it. Your characters, even though they lost some moves and gained some new ones, like, they're still, you know, a lot of the essence is still there. It's not like they turned Chip into a zoner, right? Like, he's still Rushdown at least, but Tekken's still a grappler. So, like, it still feels that way to me. And honestly, when I played Tekken 8, I'm not good enough at Tekken. Tekken 8 didn't feel all that different than Tekken 7 to me either, right? But again, I'm a Tekken kind of noob over here. So I what I'm trying to do right now is establish the fact that where I'm coming from. I'm trying to give you my background so you can understand why, like, I have a little bit harder time understanding why so many current players hate the modern iteration of their game, because again, like I said, I'm just so used to things changing. However, am I going to sit here and tell you that the hate is unjustified? Do all the Tekken 8 haters and Guilty Gear Strive haters gotta suck it up? Not really, because there actually is a little bit of validity to a lot of their complaints. A lot of the oh yeah, vampires also changed the life bar system completely. Holy crap! I'm seeing a lot of people. Oh, the mic is having issues right now. Let me try unplugging and replugging in again. You're gonna lose me for a second. We'll edit this part out. Hang on a second. Let's try to do this. Okay, I should be back. Let me know if this is better or worse. I can try again. So, right, Necromancy Black. We'll get there in a second here. So, but yeah, basically, I want to just make sure that people understand that I do still get where a lot of the complaints are coming from. And what's interesting about that is that obviously talk about Tekken 8 and Guilty Gear. It's still there. Oh, okay. Let's try it one more time. Let's just see if it works. If it doesn't, it's not. Can't do. I need to get a new mic. Okay, hang on a second. There is a potential that it could be the cable. I should just try swapping the cable and see what happens. I just don't know if I have another cable that's long enough right now, but we'll worry about it next time. If the popping is still there, I'm just going to deal with it. We'll just live with that for now. So, okay. So again, I just want to reiterate that, I, despite the fact that my background makes it so that a lot of times I'm like, man, like, why are they so complex? Just learn the new game. Just learn the new game like we did all the time, right? Like Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 6 are all completely different games, right? Like, but the thing about it is, like, a lot of the frustration and a lot of the anger that's coming from the players right now, I do think has a little justification. And fortunately, Necromancy Black, my cats do not chew on wires. I think the reason why that happened is not good. But fortunately, my cats don't actually chew on wires, because one time I came home, actually found my power strip and the power cable part completely chewed up, which meant, and it was plugged in and on. So I'm terrified that Nathan probably shocked himself, and he probably he's never chewed on a wire since then. He never chewed on a wire since then. So I feel really bad, but that happened while I was at work. So I had no idea. So, but oh man, yeah. Yeah, I'm scared that that's what happened to Nathan. Like, it's terrifying to me to think about that that might have been the case. But as a result, my cats do not chew on wires. So I will not have a situation where Ultra David suddenly loses his microphone because Ajax literally just chewed through the wire in the middle of his stream. Oh, man. But again, back to the topic at hand here, there is actual validity to a lot of these people's complaints because even though I've sat here and talked about Tekken 8 and Guilty Gear Strive so much, it's happening everywhere, right? I mean, look at some of the discourse on Street Fighter 6 right now. People hate drive rushes, and with good reason, right? People are super frustrated with drive rushes. There was another, MK1, even though Mortal Kombat is known as a series that changes it up all the time because, again, MK9, MK10, MKX may be a little similar to each other, except MKX, I think, was a little more brutal. But then MK11 was a completely different game, right? But, you know, NRS players, they're used to it. They also switched to Injustice. They're like, whatever. But the thing about it is, when MK1 came out, it didn't just change the game, it literally changed subgenres. It became an assist game. And trust me, as a person who sucks at assist games really badly, it's really different to play one of those games compared to playing just regular one-on-one games. Even though you just sit there like, oh, the assist is just a special move they pick. So in a series where they used to have, you know, different loadouts that gain different special moves, like, you can't use that as an excuse. The assist is just a special move. They're just picking a different special. No, it's not how the brain works. I see character, I know everything they can do, and then it's just gone. That's just it. Like, when I play Marvel games, I just forget assists exist. I don't know why. Like, it's so hard for me to keep track of them. And so, like, literally MK changed genres. And, you know, even though Mortal Kombat players love MKX with its, quote, degenerate, unquote, you know, offense and mix-ups, you know, MK1 was something that they couldn't get used to. Now, in the case of a game like Mortal Kombat, you know, I think it's just because the genre of the game actually changed a lot. And so it's really hard for them to reconcile with that. And I totally get that. But with a lot of these other games, there is a common theme that is going on between all of these games that, in my opinion, is kind of the reason why a lot of the hate is coming about. And it's really the recent trend that fighting games have really started skewing towards offense. You know, a lot of people who complain about Tekken 8, you know, they're saying that they can play Tekken like normal, but then they get a hit, they use their drive gauge, however, you know, their heat gauge, and then it's one more 50-50 into death, right? The heat bursts and the heat engagers, they're designed to set up a 50-50, right? You just get mad plus frames in front of somebody's face. And in a game like Tekken, where up close, like, being able to react to mid or low is like really hard. Now, obviously, you're supposed to have reactable lows, and the unreactable lows don't do as much damage. But still, it's like, it's really, really tough for a lot of people to play that because that's what it feels like, right? It's like knockdown, put into a 50-50, guess, game over. Because, like, a lot of these games also are starting to use high damage, right? Strive is kind of similar right now, in which, you know, it's not just that the damage is really high because it's Strive. Damage is just really high in Strive, but also for a series with a history of bloated defensive mechanics. Like, they just were like, here are defensive mechanics, good luck, you know, like, even in like Exerd, when they added blitz shielding, right? Like, people started figuring out ways to do blitz shield and like be at ranges where the blitz shield wouldn't hit you because of the, you know, you were far away enough from the projectiles. Like, despite that though, but you also had the faultless defense was more useful. It pushed you back away from the enemy. Instant blocking changed frame data, as well as Like, it changed frame data, and that was the one that kept your opponents closer to you. So that way, if you actually did, so a lot of modern fighting games, they have different frame data on block, on hit, and hit. In the past, that was never the case. Even Guilty Gear Strive does that now, but in the old Guilty Gear games, that was accomplished by instant blocking, right? You had to do the just defend, essentially, for that effect. Like, all moves were the same on hit and block on the ground, but if you just defended it, you made it so that you could recover faster and get out of some mix-ups. Like, if you fight Leo in Exerd, one of the reasons why he was called Unga Bunga and was the start of the whole Unga Bunga meme in fighting game characters was because he was the only character that, even at medium levels, if you didn't ever instant block, like when me and my friend played, we didn't really instant block all that much because we never got to that level, right? We were playing good Guilty Gear, but we weren't instant blocking a lot, right? You can play Guilty Gear that way with your friends, casually, have fun. But at the highest levels, you had to start instant blocking. But Leo, like, you had to instant block or he'd kill you. He'd maul you, right? Like, just, you can't. There's nothing you could do to him because he was just so scary to fight against. And now in Street Fighter 6, we look at this, and drive rushes are doing the same. Again, the risk-reward factor is so in favor of the drive rush that if I drive rush and you check me with a standing medium kick, I'm just going to drive rush again because who the hell cares? Because if I hit you, I get a ton of damage, you know? And I spent one block. Like, I spent one block of drive gauge for a raw drive rush or 3 blocks for a drive rush cancel to force you into a 50-50 mix-up. The complaint that is generally happening here amongst modern games is that offense is too strong. That's really where it comes from, in my opinion, these days. Street Fighter 6, we've lost meterless invul DPs, and I know some people argue like that should never come back. Oh, hell yes, it should. Like, we need to have it so that everybody has one again, like in old fighting games. But we've lost that. Invincible backdashes have gotten worse. We've made it so that if you're, not only do you have to spend meter to get a DP, but every time you whiff a DP, like, it's just time to die, right? Because you're in, like, super, like, even in Street Fighter 5, they put you in punish counter state and all this stuff. Like, dude, like, it's just time to die. Like, the risk and reward of stuff is, like, so not in favor of the defense, right? Street Fighter 5, like, universally everybody thought improved when they added V-Shift to the game. Like, top players, like, universally, top players were happy that V-Shift was introduced because they were like, we need more defensive mechanics, right? And if you look at Strive and compare it to the older Guilty Gears, all the defense is gone, right? All the defensive options that we used to be able to use are basically gone. Right? The invincible backdashes aren't as good as they used to be. The dead angles are not that good anymore. They changed it to the YRCs. But the old ones, the dead angles were really fast. And they got you no damage and they couldn't kill. But they were like, get you off of me, please. I'm desperate, right? They know it's a downside because you're using your meter for very little reward, but like, you had that option. They added the blitz mechanic, there was just a lot, like I said, and then of course, instant blocking, faultless defense, a lot of these tools were a lot stronger. One of the reasons why I've praised Under Night in Birth so much is because that game is also chock full of defense mechanics. And while the defensive mechanics in Tekken haven't really decreased, but the offensive mechanics is the strongest that Tekken has ever experienced in its life, right? Oh, dude, Jim Kubak in the chat says V-Shift felt like another big old nerf to Zangief's pressure. Dude, Zangief was doomed. Like, Zangief was like, he basically didn't exist in Street Fighter 5. That's how I think of it right now. Zangief just didn't exist in that game. It just didn't exist. You can't talk about it. Like, it's just so unfortunate for him. I mean, I felt the same way about Guilty Gear, right? I felt the same way about Guilty Gear, where they're like, we gave Strive They gave in Strive, they're like, we made it now so that all these characters can dash cancel in the air these cool buttons. I'm like, thanks. As a Potemkin player, I was like, thank you. Thank you. Let me cancel my jump attacks into an air dash. Thank you very much. Like they screwed up a lot of things, like the red Roman cancel actually causing slowdown if it hits the opponent like on whiff, or because I used to have all these setups for Potemkin that I would Roman cancel at the last second, and because there was no slowdown, I would actually be able to sneak in there and actually catch them with SPDs, and all the things that they added to that game didn't help Potemkin at all. I was like, come on, thanks, man, thanks. Oh, man. But again, the burnout situation, I don't count that. Kaoru, ambassador. I don't count that because you're supposed to suck in burnout. Like, you shouldn't burn yourself out. I like that you're weak in burnout because it's supposed to happen. I have no complaints about burnout situations, honestly. Because I think that adds one of the best layers of Street Fighter 6 is the drive gauge management. I think it's really fascinating. And I love seeing people do it because I'm terrible at it. To add to your point about Geef not being in Street Fighter 5, even Snake Eyes ended up playing more Kage than Zangief. Yo, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. They were not going to help Zangief, and they never did. They really never did. It's really sad. That is a very common one. Seth Killian has famously said, I think it was Olaf who told me that Seth said to him, it was like, you changed Guile's crouching medium kick, Ibuki is the best character in the game, right? That's kind of the thing. And yeah, that's the butterfly effect that I talked about on Twitter with people not understanding balance, right? Again, that interview with Keats about Killer Instinct is still one of the greatest interviews ever, where people were like, his instinct's too strong, his instinct is too strong, nerf him, nerf that, that's too strong. And then Keats was like, I don't think that's actually the problem. I think the problem is something else. And he looked into it and found out that Jago's wind kick was too strong. Nerf the wind kick, didn't change the instinct, and then he was fair, and nobody complained about the instinct anymore. A lot of people don't realize what it is that needs to be changed for character. Again, I see character buff lists and I'm just like, really? Like, someone sent me a Ryu buff list and was like, this is what I'd like to see with Ryu. They're not that big of a deal, and I think these would help him compete more. And there was 14 things. There was like 14 things in there. And like every small thing, like, yes, everything that was in there looked small, but Jesus, and I'll always go back to my SRK days on the Cammy forums where someone was like, in the first year of Street Fighter 4 was like, they just need to make Cammy's Tiger Knee Cannon Strike an overhead. That will make her actually good. And I was like, she'll be the most broken character in the game. And they're like, no, that would just make her fair. And I'm like, what? Like, what? It's crazy. People don't understand the degree of effect that some changes actually can make. And this includes top level players too. So unfortunately, I don't agree with Broski's opinion. I know we were talking about this before the stream started, but Broski's opinion that, like, why don't we get more professional players to help with the balance? One, this does happen sometimes, right? Like, I know that in some games they've gotten top players' opinions during pre-release and stuff like that. But in general, I don't know if I would necessarily trust a top player's opinion. Keats had his story that, during the course of Killer Instinct, he was one of the most, available game developers, designers, gameplay balance guys in the history of fighting games. It's like people were just writing to him directly, being like, buff this, nerf this, buff this, nerf this. Even the toppest of top players were putting suggestions that Keats knew was just completely like, no. And so it's like, it's hard. It's hard for that situation. Even when I ask for like Kimberly buffs, or even when I try to get things nerfed, like, I'm very reasonable about it, right? Like, my nerf to Bison isn't destroy OD Psycho Crusher. It's literally only make the first hit cancelable into level 3. That's it. That's it. So you can still do everything. You just can't confirm OD Psycho Crusher into a level 3 by itself, right? Like, you actually have to have a read or just kind of pray kind of thing, you know? But again, like, you have to realize, like, when you change something, like, you have to be fair. You have to be balanced. And the effect that you are saying isn't also just, doesn't affect only just what you're looking at right now. I know I have famously said I have avoided talking about HDR as much as possible. Now, it's true, a lot of players had the ability to speak with Serlin for balancing HDR, right? And obviously, I was super interested in Cammy, and I was telling him to, like, buff certain things. And he's like, oh, well, I made her DP punishable because her drill is too good. And I was like, well, then weaken the drill back a little bit, and all this other stuff. And he's like, you know, and I have some suggestions on how to balance Balrog. And he's like, oh, you're not a top boxer player, so I can't trust your opinion or whatever like that. And then, you know, Jason Cole was fighting against the new Cammy and was like, this fight is unwinnable now. Cammy's jumping strong, beating all my slides is too good. You should nerf Cammy's jump strong because she doesn't use it in any other fight except Dulcim. And so I was like, okay. Didn't say, hey, you're not a top Cammy player. I don't trust your opinion. He was like, okay. And they nerfed Cammy's jumping strong, which I use in like every single fight that I play with Cammy. And he nerfed it. Like, you know, and it's, oh God, it's like, sorry, I don't even remember what my point is at this part, but like, no, that's what it is. It's just like, you know, they were looking at the Cammy Dulcim matchup, right? And in ST, Cammy loses that matchup because all the Dulcims have found ways to anti-air Cammy without slide, right? Down back heavy kick, close jab, all these things beat her jumping strong, right? So it didn't even matter in the end, right? Like that shit, like, Dulcim literally won the matchup in ST, but because they were so focused on one matchup, they nerfed something, and in the end, it hurt her in a lot of other matchups. Now, obviously, they overbuffed her drill, so it really didn't matter, but then she became a brain-dead character, which to me, even though she could win more, like, I didn't want to win like that. I thought I was really sad about that, to be honest with you. But, so they didn't nerf the crap out of her because they just made her drill recovery like super good. So she just became spiral arrow, spiral arrow, spiral arrow, spiral arrow. She was like Balrog without a charge. Like, it was kind of nuts towards the end. And so, you know, that's just because you're focused on one thing. When you change something, you have to realize the ramifications. When you're like, this matchup sucks because this opponent can do this, you have to nerf this move for my matchup. That's not just a change that changes your matchup. No matter what you think. No matter what you think. That is a change that will domino effect everywhere. It's why I call it the butterfly effect, right? You go back in time and step on a butterfly and you come back to the future and all of a sudden, like, you know, Russia won, like, Germany won World War II, right? Like, you know, you're like, what the heck happened? That's the whole concept of the butterfly effect. And that's a huge factor in fighting games. If you change one small thing, the ramifications can be so much more significant than you could have possibly imagined, right? So that's the thing, right? So I don't agree with the idea of having top players be balance designers unless they have a good sense, right? So we're already seeing in something like 2XKO, right? 2XKO, they've hired guys like Apology Man, Nerd Josh, Yohozi. Like, they hired a bunch of them to do a lot of the testing to find broken shit. And, you know, talking to the 2XKO guys, you know, they said, yeah, those guys have found things and come up with things that they never even thought of, right? Like, but the thing about it is, like, those kind of players, like they're not the top players. You notice, right? Obviously, did I say GC Yoshi? I meant Apology Man. Sorry, Apology Man, Nerd Josh, and Yohozi. But all three of them are all really good players, but they're really strong tech monsters, and they enjoy breaking things. Especially like Apology Man. He used to always love using the scroll. The scroll red armor strategy in the Marvel games and kidnap you all day, right? Like, yeah, like, but again, you're not getting the top players. You're looking for a specific mindset of a person who would be able to balance things and understand things in a lot of ways. So again, it's not about finding the top players to help you. It's about finding the people out there who would be really good at balancing and really good at like, understanding these kind of things that in the way that Keats understands. For example, like I think like if you hired me, I would be really, Juicebox would be another good one. I think I would be a really good choice. My problem is that I'm too emotional. And so I yell a lot on Twitter. So I think a lot of people would be scared to hire me because they'd be afraid I would do the thing where I would overbalance my favorite character. Whereas, honestly, I don't think I would because I don't think I could live with that, to be honest with you. And there's a reason why I don't play top tier characters because I don't like using super strong characters in fighting games. I don't know why. I just don't. I'm not a fan of that, right? And I think I could think logically enough. This might just be my resume for fighting game makers out there to hire me to help me balance your damn game. But I think I could do a good job, honestly. But it's hard. It is really, really hard to balance a fighting game out there. So I don't agree with getting the top players. But back to the topic at hand, I do think that in general, fighting games, it's interesting because a lot of games that people love, like MVC3 and MVC2, those games are offensive monsters, powerhouses, right? Like it's terrifying playing against those games. Like MKX, everyone loves MKX, even though that game is also just like the offense is ridiculous and stuff. But there's a difference between having a lot of offense and being kind of grimy like that, but then also having defense that's just like super strong, right? Like literally an ST. Outside of two characters, everybody has a wake up DP, right? And nobody has ever said that DPs were broken in Super Turbo. Meterless DPs. Nobody has ever thought that was broken, right? But then also you go to Marvel 2 and like those assists, like the reason why people use Psylocke assist, Captain Commando assist, and Cyclops assist is because those anti-air assists are broken. So even though the game is crazy and when you watch it and you don't notice the subtlety of playing around those assists and you're like, this offense is dumb. Like, how do you even, dude, like play against good players. You will never hit them with as crazy as your offense could possibly be, right? And then even in a game like Third Strike, parry is always there. Parry is super strong. And people don't complain about it because, the offense is good too. Well, for some characters. And it's strong, but you still have really strong defense. The problem with a lot of these modern games right now is that they don't have strong defense. This is where a lot of people are getting frustrated about. The Tekken 8 thing, the 50-50 is annoying to deal with because you're forced into it and there's really nothing you can do. The thing I hated the most about Tekken 8, which they did fix, was that Heat Burst had like no counter. It beat throws, it beat everything. You could hit it with a low if you could find a move fast enough. So round one fight, Heat Burst was like impossible to punish for a lot of characters. It was like you just had to block it, and then they would put you into like they would be like super enhanced, and then if they could mix you up, you just died, right? Like you just never had a chance to do anything, right? Right, the Third Strike parries had a lot of risk to them as well, so that's why they felt good when you did it. You felt like I deserve that kind of thing, right? But, right now the heat engagers and the heat bursts and all that stuff and the mix-ups that they put you in are really, really brutal, right? It's really hard. And then in Guilty Gear Strive, it's the same thing. One of the biggest complaints is that the offense is too strong. And it's like, normally it's just like knockdown into I get one guess and that's game over, right? And, I know a lot of people argue like, I like it without meterless DPs, but you have to understand something about the Dragon Punch, okay? There's a reason why I consider the Dragon Punch the smartest move ever made in a fighting game. I really think so, because it is the answer to a lot of things that is super punishable on block. Now, you don't have to give it extra, like, don't give it fatal counters and all this other shit out there, but, like, the thing about it is an answer to to almost every question that can be provided. Oh my God, the Zangief's trying to SPD me. What do I do? DP. Oh my God, the zoner is zoning me. What am I going to do? Try to DP a limb. Like, oh my God, this pressure is crazy. Try to DP. Is this mix-up crazy? Oh, what do I do? Try to DP, right? Like, it's a powerful onboarding tool because it's one of the most powerful defensive options with one of the biggest drawbacks in that you die if it gets blocked, right? Or you get hurt, right? And then the other thing that's really powerful about the Dragon Punch is it changes the mentality of everybody who's playing and learning fighting games. Because for all those people out there who played Street Fighter 4 or played other games where you have invul DPs, when someone blocks your invul DP, what do you react with? You don't react with, my blocking is so cheap. It's so powerful. My DP should be blocking. No. Most of the time when you get your DP block, you're like, yeah, fuck, okay, good read. Damn it. Like, you made a mistake. Like, DPs automatically shift accountability back to you. And it is such a powerful tool for making people understand that you got red and this is your fault. And as an onboarding weapon for fighting games, I just think it is so valuable to have. And when you take that away from people, it is really, it makes getting into these games a little bit harder, and it makes the offense stronger. And the worst thing about fighting games, and this goes back to my arguments of why fighting games are harder to get into than other games, is because literally in a fighting game, round one fight, and you're fighting someone who's better than you, there is an absolute chance that you will not play the game at all from start to finish. Round one fight, I walk forward and I hit a button, they whiff punish me, and you may never play again for the rest of the round. Even in other games, like if you die in a MOBA, yeah, you've got your little cooldown. It takes a little bit longer each time for you to respawn, but you'll respawn, you get back into it. You play a battle royale, you die, you just jump into another game. You're playing. In fighting games, there is just like an ability to just never play. Never play at all, right? And that happens more when you make defense weaker. What is the commonality between a lot of these complaints about Drive Rush, about Guilty Gear Strive, about Tekken 8's heat system? A lot of them is that I am forced into a mix-up where I have to guess. It's so different when you are forced into a guess where I have 10 options and 9 of them lose to a DP. Right? One option beats the DP, which is block or backdash away and just avoid it and watch them whiff and kill them. But the problem is that, right now, most modern fighting games are 1-to-1-to-1. This is why I emphasize the Street Fighter V RPS so badly, because you have to understand it, right? But when you get knocked down or you're in minus frames against somebody else, you're at the mercy of the Street Fighter RPS, right? Some of them are forced. Like, literally some of them are forced, right? Heat engager into something, like that's it. Like that's a forced mix-up. Low forward in the drive rush, that's a forced mix-up, right? Like you're in a forced mix-up kind of situation. And then, even when you break people through the wall in Guilty Gear, almost most characters have a safe jump set up. There's really not much you can do about that a lot of times too. So like the thing about it is like the problem is a lot of it is 1-to-1-to-1. Again, why did people like V-Shift? Because so in Street Fighter V, it was attack, throw, shimmy, attack, throw, shimmy, attack, throw, shimmy. But the ODD was really strong because it was one of the only tools that beat two of the options. It beat attack and it beat throw. But it lost the shimmy, right? But if you're wrong, you took gobs of damage, right? Well, the nice thing is when they added V-Shift, it fought a different two, right? It actually escaped attacks. It could avoid shimmies, because a lot of times you would shimmy and I would go like, oh crap, and then they wouldn't react in time. But technically, if you were fast enough, it would lose the throw, because you would whiff the throw and you could still punish the end of the V-Shift, especially if you did it close enough where they were in the corner, etc., etc. So, but it added another option that beat two, right? The problem with defense in a lot of modern fighting games is they designed them to be 1-to-1-to-1. But right, like if you look at a lot of the classic fighting games and what people loved about the fighting games was that there was a lot of, here's my 10 options on offense when I knock them down. Here's the other person's options. He has like 5 defensive options. Well, option 1 beats 9 out of 10 of these options. Option 2 of the defense beats like these, oops, I just flipped everybody off. These 4 options over here. Sorry, like beats these 4 options but loses to these 6. This third option beats like 7 options but loses to these 3. Like, there's a lot more depth to it, and I'm oversimplifying it because people are like, name one, James. I'd be like, well, but in general, that's kind of the idea, right? So like, in Marvel 2, for example, yes, was offense really powerful, but like, get up into call your invincible assist was really strong. And if you didn't know how to fight that, you could die. Like you can't do anything, but then you learn how to fight against that. So like if you're fighting against Commando with a Magneto, you would learn and jump and air dash behind them. So they call Commando, he'd shoot the pillar over here, you'd attack from the other side, etc., etc. Or you would just bait them backdash, they'd call their assist, then you do EM disrupt into super into storm super and watch the assist get destroyed, right? Like there were ways around it. Oh, and then if you were like, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to do anything. As soon as he touches me, I push block him, right? And then that pushes him away. That's another defensive option over there. It's just like even in like Super Turbo, when you knock somebody down with Ryu, a lot of times your best option was just throw a meaty fireball. You didn't even put them into a mix-up. You didn't care. You just like, okay, I knocked you down, walk back, Hadouken, back to this. You didn't have to go in for the mix-up, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't that strong. But nowadays, when you're playing all these modern fighting games, if you knock somebody down and you don't have a mix-up, like, you're playing the game wrong, honestly. It's just, again, the offense and the mix-ups and everything are just too strong in modern fighting games. And we need a shift, in my opinion. I do think we need a shift. I don't think we need a shift into, like, super duper defense. And again, a lot of this comes from the fact that there are no drawbacks. And this is the tough thing too, because as soon as you add in a system that requires resource, you don't want to put drawbacks on. The drawback is supposed to be the resource usage. The drive cancel in Street Fighter 6, the drawback is that you spend $3. And now you have to build a lot of drive gauge back. Well, I think people have actually gotten so good at drive management that, that's not enough of a punishment anymore. The heat engagers, they're super strong, and you get one for free every round. I mean, look at sparking in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Sparking was supposed to be their X-Factor comeback mechanic, and instead it became the kill the opponent's first character mechanic so badly that they had to introduce a new comeback mechanic, in which when you only had one character left, they were just stronger. You know, like, it's like the defense isn't powerful enough in a lot of these fighting games, you know? And that's, again, why I love the drive game stuff too, Halu. Because I love the fact that no other prodigy is the burnout king. I love that, like, people play differently. And yeah, just like Necromancy Black says, in a lot of fighting games today, blocking is often the worst option. And in many times when you block, you're wrong. Like, it happens a lot in modern fighting games. If you're blocking, you're wrong. And that's a problem. Right? Blocking should have its own reward in a lot of ways. You know, defense should be rewarded. And so, like, I just feel like, you know, the hardest thing right now is that a lot of fighting games are emphasizing offense. And I do feel like a lot of that is esports influence, right? Because you want the games to look more exciting. I mean, look what happened to Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right? In a period where Street Fighter 4 was absolutely thriving, Street Fighter Cross Tekken came out, and it put me to sleep while I was on commentary. I literally almost fell out of my chair in commentary one time, commentating Street Fighter Cross Tekken, because that game was boring as fuck, dude. Season 1 in particular, you know? And so I get where a lot of the fear is, and also for a lot of players, it's more fun to be able to exert your offense because you feel powerful and you feel strong. And again, you want to make people feel good about, successfully, exerting your mix-ups and landing your combos that you practice, because those are the only things you can practice by yourself. If you don't understand how to lab in training mode, you just sit there and practice combos and mix-ups, and when you actually land in a match, it feels good, right? So, you know, make offense stronger so people can land the things that make them feel good a little bit better. But honestly, you can make people feel good about defense too. And you just have to be smart about it and add the right consequences and create the proper risk and reward. So like, for example, for the drive rush, my nerf to drive rush doesn't nerf its offensive capabilities. It just nerfs the downside to drive rush, right? It's not necessarily about, like, you know, fighting games are all about balancing risk and reward. That's like the key to balance in fighting games, is making sure that if something is too powerful, you give it a horrible risk. But if something is a little bit weaker, you lower the risk, right? Low reward, low risk, high reward. That's kind of the idea. You can also go crazy. I know people were talking about Lily in the chat earlier. You can create one move that is just super high reward and low risk, and then make the rest of her suck. But like, that's like not necessarily the best way to balance a character, right? It's kind of annoying. So, you know, again, this is where a lot of the people here are coming from. You talk to a lot of these people, and you can see the commonality between a lot of the complaints. In Tekken 8, in Guilty Gear Strive, in Street Fighter 6, it's like, I guess wrong once, I get beat up, and now it's guess for game. Like, the two-touch sequence is such a common thing in a lot of fighting games. And again, I come from hyper fighting, right? If I DP you out of the air because you jumped at me as Ken, and I run up to you and you do not block my low short when you get up, the game ends. You're dead, right? Anti-air DP, you didn't block my low short, the game is over, right? So like, it's not the two-touch factor that is a problem. The problem really just is that defense isn't particularly strong. Again, hyper fighting is like that. But the thing is, if you get up and block in hyper fighting, what can I do? You can't be thrown when you get up in hyper fighting. Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of randomness in old fighting games, which I didn't mind. But obviously, in a competitive environment, you don't want to do that. But the window in which you could not be thrown on wake up in hyper fighting and in Super Turbo and the original Street Fighter 2 were randomized between 1 and 15 frames or something like that, right? So sometimes you could get thrown right away and you're like, what the hell? But for the most part, you didn't count on it, right? So if I chose to get up and block against Ken, what you have to do is try to go for tick throws, right? So low short into walk up and throw. But if you try to go for a tick throw, I could block the low short and then just DP him or whatever. Or he could go for a cross up. But the thing about it is that means you got up and you had a very safe option that defeated a lot. So again, waking up while blocking in hyper fighting beat literally like 99% of the things. Like, if I knew you were going to get up and block in hyper fighting, I have literally, like, if we took away the randomizing of the throw invul window to be 15 frames the entire time, if I know you're going to get up and block, there's literally nothing I can do. And yet the game is fine. And yet it's one of the most strategic Street Fighters everywhere. You know, like, there wasn't even overheads in hyper fighting. Nobody had an overhead. That got introduced in Super Turbo. So nobody could even hit, like, there was literally nothing I could do except maybe tick throw or go for a cross up. And yet there was nothing, like, yet the game was fine. So again, one of the toughest things right now is that defense is just too weak in fighting games. Now, having said that, I do feel like, people have been mentioning this in the chat a lot, that social media has also made this significantly worse. That people are just, they're loud, they're whining, they're crying. I do it too. All of my tweets about Kimberly are really stupid and annoying, so I've stopped. I've toned it down. I've literally toned down my Kimberly anger tweets. Because someone's like, this meme is getting old, James. And I was like, you know, you're right. So I just kind of toned it down. I don't do it that much anymore. I don't even talk that negative about her on commentary as badly anymore. But like, I mean, you do it a lot of times because you're trying to convince the devs to buff your character. That's why people complain about it. But, you know, like, social media does make it worse. It does make it worse. And I do think a lot of players are really far too stuck in wanting more of what they already enjoy. You know who we should really call out on this? Every content creator making a people are mad at season 4 video. That's what I'm going to put on my title card. People are mad at season 4. Dude, I'm going to put that on my thumbnail now. That's the thing. So John the Automaton, if Kimberly became really strong and became top tier, I probably would end up dropping her, honestly. If she ended up mid so that at least she's competitive and didn't suck, I would still play her, honestly. Oh, man. No, feedback options are useless. Dude, I mean, I talked to Combo Fiend when he was trying to balance USF4, and he had a lot of, like, open forums, like, here's a place you can give me all of your change suggestions and things that you want to change and buff. Dude, like, fucking hell, dude. Like, he would tell me stories about some of the examples of things that he would get, and it's just like, dude, these people don't know anything, dude. I mean, it was like, you know, akin to the Tiger Knee Cannon Strike for Cammy should be an overhead kind of thing, you know? Like, it's just like, it's crazy, dude. It's wild, the kind of things. Oh, yeah, the Event Hub's tier lists, right? I mean, they're just as bad as the entire site. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, you can't trust open feedback like that. It's too risky. Because, I mean, honestly, you would just do it so that people would go in there and then you pretend to react to it, kind of thing like that, right? So that's kind of, it would just be a place for people to shout into the ether, basically. But again, you can't do something like that. And again, the one thing that I understand why Guilty Gear Xrd fans are angry, because they love their game. And while it is wonderful, and I still think unprecedented, and just one of the most amazing things in the world, that ArcSys went back and added rollback netcode to Guilty Gear Xrd, like, that to me is still one of the most mind-blowing decisions by a company that a fighting game company has ever made. They're like, here's Strife, here's a brand new game. We're trying to sell you this new game. But if you don't like it, we'll let you play the old one with good netcode. Like, what? What? I mean, it's crazy because Daisuke's literally said that. He's like, I understand Strife is different. If you don't like it, you can still play Exerd. And then they went and fixed the netcode to like really emphasize that. And so for me, it's confusing to me that, you know, a lot of the older Guilty Gear players are mad because if you liked XX and hated Exerd and Strife, you can still play XX with great rollback netcode. And if you're an Exerd fan, you hate Strife, you can still play Exerd with great rollback netcode. Now, the reason why a lot of these people stay angry, though, is because there is a jealousy factor and there is a pride factor, right? They love their game. And that game is not the one that is getting the world tour for thousands of dollars. You know, that's not the one that's being promoted. And that's not the one where you can showcase your talent. As much as a lot of people are like, I don't need esports, give me grassroots any day. Yeah, they say that until, you know, ArcSys is like, hey, we're adding Exerd to the Arc World Tour. Here's your prize for, you know, $100,000 for first place. Yeah, let's talk. We'll see how much those Exerd players all of a sudden are going to be like, I'm not entering because I like my grassroots. No, they'll be like, fuck, I can win $100,000? Like, yeah, we'll see how much you love your grassroots if that happens. And honestly, in my opinion, ArcSys should 100% do that. I think for the next Arc World Tour, they should add Exerd. And hell, maybe just add XX to it. Why the fuck not, dude? Obviously, it's hard because you got to keep track of more things and all this stuff like that. But man, that would be so sick. I think that would be the coolest thing ever. Because if you look at an event like Frosty Faustings, right? Man, the Guilty Gear crowd there for all of the games are amazing. The scene is amazing. They're all hyped for their games. They love their games. They enjoy it. They always play it. Like Exerd, XX, and Strive all get a lot of entrance at Frosty Faustings because and again, I will always say this and I'll always believe this, but good fighting games never go bad. Like, good fighting game will be a good fighting game forever. Like, even as much as Silent Hill 2 is one of my top 3 video games of all time, I can't recommend you to go play that on the PlayStation 2. Because, yes, for back then, it's manageable, but nowadays, like, you can't handle the graphics and the camera. Like, you will scream at some of the things that the game does, right? It's hard to recommend going back to that. But fighting games, they don't age. A good fighting game never ages. It's crazy. Like Sailor Moon, people are playing Sailor Moon. You know what I mean? Like, this is a Super Nintendo game that's broken as hell, and yet somehow it has a bigger scene now than it did in the past, you know? Like, it's just crazy that fighting games never get old. So, like, I just don't see the reason why they wouldn't do that, you know? And honestly, so the one thing I will say about this, while I understand why these guys have a lot of hate, while it can be justified by the fact that a lot of modern fighting games are way too offensive and defense isn't strong enough these days, all of that is true, but also at the same time, just stop shitting on the newer game. Let people have fucking fun, okay? Please, please, you don't like it. Okay, that's cool. Go play your game. Leave them alone. Stop shitting on the game. If you like Exerd and you're playing Exerd, leave Strive alone. If you really like Tekken 7, go back and play Tekken 7. Leave Tekken 8 alone, right? Like, that's the thing that I hate the most, is that people got to talk about it all the time. And I guarantee you right now, if they put Exerd into the Arc World Tour, sure, it might not be the last game they show at the actual Arc Finals. Sure, it might be the second to the last game or third to the last game because they got to promote Granblue or whatever like that. But the people would be a lot less angry. People would be a lot less angry because they'd be like, hell yeah, my game is getting spotlight. Like, honestly, and if you're Arc World Tour, Like, you could literally, like, can't, like, obviously you don't support old games because you can't sell them, right? That's the idea. Companies don't support old games, but they can't sell. You absolutely can still sell Xrd because Steam exists, right? That's the nice thing. The PC platform exists, and the fighting games have been moving progressively towards the PC platform now. And before, it was a problem. It's an old console archaic mindset that you stop supporting old games because once the console becomes obsolete, there's no way to buy the game or play the game anymore. But that's not the case anymore today. So you can actually sell Xrd. So if you add Xrd to ArcSys World Tour and people get in and enjoy that, and Strive wasn't their thing, you'll sell more copies of Xrd. You absolutely can, because fighting games don't get old. And there's a lot of games out there that don't get old, but fighting games in particular, people will buy old fighting games, man. People will buy old fighting games. Street Fighter V is available on PS5 because Street Fighter V was around when the PS5 came out. So they had already made a version for it. But we don't see Street Fighter 4 on the PS5, right? And the chances of that happening, that's not a backwards compatibility thing, probably almost never, right? So that's just the thing. We're in an era right now where you can absolutely support Xrd and Strive at an Arc World Tour. Especially because Daisuke has even said, I understand, Strive is a very different game. If you don't like it, the old ones still exist. And adding rollback netcode was the first mind-blowing decision that they made, because I'm like, you're literally supporting not the modern version of your game. What? When has that ever happened? And so now I really just feel like they could just throw Xrd into the Arc World Tour. Why not? Why not? ArcSys, if you're listening to this, I need to talk to the ArcSys people. Put Xrd into the Arc World Tour. There's no reason not to. And I think that would be awesome. Now, obviously for like Tekken situations, I don't know what to do about that, right? Like, I don't know, because obviously like the NRS community is really, really, really historic about new version, old versions don't exist. Although MKX still has a very strong scene in a lot of places, especially in Latin American countries, MKX is still really strong. But I don't know about the Tekken community, right? Like, with Tekken 8 out, is it one of those things where, like, we just don't play Tekken 7 anymore, right? There's just no reason, like, that's it. It's gone, because that's what the community is used to. Street Fighter has kind of turned that way, which is really sad, because I think Street Fighter 4 deserves a resurgence. So if we can get a Street Fighter 4 re-release, I mean, if they make a collection with Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and Marvel 3 on it, and charged $120, they'd probably sell out. I bet you people would buy that anyway. They shouldn't sell it for $120. I'm just saying, like, that's how like crazy everybody. Yeah, old KOFs are still thriving, etc., etc. Exactly. And so I just feel like, fighting games don't get old. And I really feel like they can promote that. So unfortunately, like Street Fighter V, the scene, I don't know if there is a Street Fighter V scene right now. I know the Street Fighter 4 scene is really basically non-existent, because a lot of the older Street Fighter games are kept alive with Fightcade. The Fightcade is what keeps a lot of the old games alive. And yeah, Street Fighter V, some people are saying the scene is dead, probably because the Street Fighter V netcode isn't very good. But you bring back these fighting games with like brand new netcode and just like supported people playing the old versions. Like, dude, that's just, you buy so much goodwill from that, honestly. I really feel that way. Yeah, to Hollow, I talked about NRS already. That scene is just used to, oh, you moved on to the next game? The old game no longer exists, because they just don't support it anymore. So, But yeah, fighting games don't get old, man. It's really powerful. Yeah, again, Ultra Street Fighter 4 is still at Steam, but it doesn't have rollback netcode. So who cares, right? Like, it doesn't matter. We've all seen the light. We like nobody is a rollback netcode denier anymore, right? Like if there's anybody out there who still thinks rollback netcode it sucks compared to delay based netcode, they're also a flat earther as well. Okay, so but you know, I think Knuckle do run Street Fighter 4 lobbies, huh? Nice. But again, fighting games don't get old, and you know, for Capcom, it's a different situation. I don't think they would benefit as much bringing Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 4 into a Capcom World Tour, for example. But the Guilty Gear scene is special in a way that if you actually added all three Guilty Gears, XX, Xrd, and Strive into the Arc World Tour, I think that would be awesome. I think that would work really well. I think there's a lot of potential for success in that, honestly. I mean, the problem with Third Strike is if they tried to put Third Strike into modern thing, we'd have to find a good official version because everybody plays online, plays on Fightcade, because Fightcade is still the best way to play it online. So unless they can release a 35th anniversary where they improve the netcode and spice it up a little bit to be like the modern collections that we have, unfortunately, we're not going to get that kind of situation. So we would have to have an officially licensed, good online version of the game. So, yeah, Fightcade has ranked modes and all sorts of crazy shit like that. It's wild, dude. So, emulation itself takes 1 frame of lag, right? And 3 SPRs. I don't think it has to. I don't think it has to. I mean, technically, Mister is emulation. I don't think Mister adds any input lag but that, of course, is hardware emulation. So that's a different story. So, yeah, I mean, we're jumping all over topics here, but it's important to talk about all these different facets of this topic. Again, I understand where these guys are coming from. As a person with a background of seeing a lot of different games change drastically, like being a fan of Street Fighter and Darkstalkers, like it doesn't faze me as much to see games change so drastically because games have literally changed into versions that I still don't like today, right? Like Alpha 1, like I have nothing I can tell you about Alpha 1 to promote it. Like if you ask me what's the best, like name me one good thing about Alpha 1, I'll be like the original dramatic battle. That's it. Like, that's all I'll say. Like, outside of that, like, the game sucks, right? Like, but, we've gone through that. And we played them, and they sucked. Whatever. But, like, I'm used to that. But, again, I understand where a lot of people are coming from about the hate, because the new version, yes, while these two are legacy series, and so it's harder for people to adjust to something that's different, it's also because, honestly, I think the trend in general of games being extremely aggressive and offensive with very weak defense is hurting fighting games. I really do. I think fighting games are better when you have a good balance. Obviously, if you make defense too strong, that's a big problem as well. But if you make defense too weak, it is a frustration to play these kind of fighting games, right? Like, there is something to be said about having a Dragon Punch be a cure-all solution except for blocking or making you whiff your Dragon Punch and punishing you. There's something to be said about that. It onboards players a lot easier. I really think it does. It's the ultimate lesson in fighting games. Because if you get your DP, if the opponent walks up to you and does nothing and you DP, like nobody thinks anything is broken or cheap. Like the instant you're just like, well, he read me. And like, that's it. And then, like I said, one of my earliest, I remember things that I thought to myself in Street Fighter 2 days, I was like, but wait, if somebody's gonna try to expect my wake up uppercut, what if I actually wake up, walked forward, and threw them instead? I am a genius. This is so good. This is, whoa, my God. I can't wait to pull that off on somebody. Like, it like nowadays, like that just feels super basic, right? You're just like, whatever. In fact, I did that to somebody on the Champion Edition machine. I did that to Vicious at the last time we were doing the Japan thing. We played on the championship machine. I was Kenny with Zangief. He walked up to me and I got up and I literally walked like 2 steps and threw him because I knew he was baiting my DP, right? Nowadays, it's like, whatever. We all know that tactic. But like back in the day when we were all learning, that was one of the first tactics I came up with. Dragon punches, meterless dragon punches, by default, teach you fighting games. Having a powerful defensive option in general teaches you fighting games. And so I feel like we're missing something with that. I really do honestly feel like we are better off having stronger defense. As long as the stronger defense has a way to be blown up, it will never be too strong. Like if you remember the Lethan Goichi match from Dragon Ball, where Goichi blocked and reacted to everything, that wasn't because the defense was too strong. That was because the offense was too weak. Right? That had nothing to do with defense being broken. That was just because the offense was a little too weak. The unblockable throws had too much reaction time for them. That's why Street Fighter V and Street Fighter VI have to keep throws unreactable, because as soon as you make them reactable and you can tech them every time, that's a problem. Unless you make it like Super Turbo, in which you take a chunk of damage and then land on your feet. Like, I'd be okay with that. Like, if we implemented Street Fighter V, like that would be interesting, right? Like, what if we just added that to Street Fighter VI late teching? So that you throw them, they can tech late, they lose still like 70% of that damage, but they land on their feet. That kills throw loops, right? That'll kill throw loops, but you're still taking a big chunk of damage, but at least you're being rewarded for having a reaction kind of thing. You know, it would make shimmies a lot stronger, honestly. Holy crap. But you know, like, again, it's hard to make defense too strong unless there's no way to open it up, right? Killer Instinct 1. We didn't put throws in the game. So the only thing we did was give everybody one really long overhead that could only be used at point blank range in a game with no block stun. Like, yes, defense was too strong, but that's because the offense was too weak. Like, no matter what you do with defense, as long as you give it a weakness, it can be exploited. And it's very hard to make defense too strong, right? And so I feel like fighting games are missing defense at this point. So, hey, I've talked about the long delays and minimal stream matches for the Japan CPT. We have not, but that is I don't want to throw a whole country under the bus. It's Japan. Like, they, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if the Japanese audience is just really patient. But, like, you watch SFL Japan. There was one event that we did. I won't name which event, and you probably won't be able to guess which one it is. But, like, after the grand finals is over, like, we were talking to the American production crew, and they were like, dude, the Japanese team wanted, after the grand finals, to just have this dev come out and do a slideshow, and then this dev come out and do a slideshow, and then this dev come out and do a slideshow. And, like, between matches, they wanted these breaks everywhere. I don't know what it is. It's like a cultural difference. It's a cultural difference. I don't get it. I honestly don't understand it, to be honest with you. So I don't know. Oh, okay. So even the Japanese chat was angry. Then I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so again, you know, this is one of those times where I'm trying to be fair, talking about this kind of factor over there. I get why a lot of old school players hate the new iterations, because it's not unjustified. It's not coming from nowhere. Is Tekken 8 still a Tekken? Yes. Is Guilty Gear Strive still a Guilty Gear? Yes, absolutely. Is Street Fighter 6 still a Street Fighter? Absolutely. There's no question about that. Anyone who says, oh, that's barely a Guilty Gear anymore, you're just wrong. Okay, go play the original Guilty Gear on PlayStation 1. Okay, get back to me, okay? Like, we have to allow for games to experiment. We have to. You have to give room for devs to experiment. That's just what it is, especially in this age, and especially because I truly believe fighting games don't get old. Fighting games just don't get old. Let them do that. Let them experiment, okay? Please, let them experiment. But just, like, I get it. You don't like it. The game feels different. It's too aggressive. You hate the mix-ups, whatever, etc., etc. But, like, stop yelling about it. Stop complaining about it. Especially, if you have the ability to play the old game. Now, for guys like the NRS fans and the Tekken fans, Tekken 7 and MK11 or X, whichever one you prefer and stuff like that, yeah, their scenes are kind of dead at this point. And so you're mad because you have to play the most modern version, right? Which, again, is why it blows my mind that they gave rollback netcode to Exert at all. Just absolutely. I still think it's a dream that they did that. Because they don't put rollback netcode. Like, the rollback netcode in that game is good, right? So, yeah, people just hate change. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, understand that change has to happen. It has to happen, right? And a lot of people don't. And you know what? I mean, at the risk of getting too political, that's where a lot of it comes from, right? People are scared of change. Most of the time, people will back the thing that keeps things the way they like it, that they enjoy. And change is scary. It absolutely is scary. But this is just fighting games. This is not politics here. This is just fighting games. Like, there are people out there that legit enjoy this current version of the game. And just like we said at the start of Street Fighter V, we said when Street Fighter 6 comes out, everybody is going to complain that it's not Street Fighter V. And this was during, like, the height of Street Fighter V's hate. And you know what? A lot of people complain about 6 because it's not 5. Trust me, when Guilty Gear Vivid comes out, no, because that would be Guilty Gear 6 too, because that would be a VI in there. When Guilty Gear Valhalla, I don't know, when Guilty Gear Valhalla comes out, people are going to be mad because it doesn't play like Strive. They're just going to be mad. And when Tekken 9 comes out, they're going to be mad. And the problem is we're comparing 7-year-old games, which have had lots of adjustments, to a game that just came out, right? Again, for all intents and purposes, Street Fighter 6 is one of the most amazingly, solid fighting games in the first year and 2 years of its existence. Like, I can't name you a fighting game that has a better first 2 year track record than Street Fighter 6 right now. But again, people out there are going to enjoy these games, and yes, does it make you angry that they're enjoying those games and not the game that you play that you think is significantly better? Especially because they're getting all the attention, the world tours, and they can win all the monies. They're rewarded for showing off their skills. Sure, absolutely. I get that. But you have to understand, that's bitterness. That's jealousy. That is exactly what that is. And so you'll argue, whatever, grassroots is better anyway. Like, you have to understand that that's where a lot of your anger comes from. And there's no reason to beat up on another game for that. Like, okay, let's say the devs are like, you're right, Strive sucks. Like, are they going to all of a sudden just revert back to Exert and, come out with a complete new world tour for Exert? No amount of complaining about Strive is going to make Exert replace Strive, going to make Tekken 7 replace Tekken 8. But, what you can do is offer solutions. You can offer, constructive feedback, because a game like Street Fighter V Season 1 can end up like a Street Fighter final season. year 7. There's a lot of people out there who genuinely think Street Fighter 5 and its last season is a great game. And oftentimes it takes that amount of time for a lot of fighting games to get good. And I just the hating, the getting mad about it, I just think, like, all you're doing is dividing, right? Because, like, Strive players out there who love Strive may have thought about giving Exert a chance, but you've talked so much shit about Strive and why Exert is so much better, you're going to go back and maybe never want to give Exert a chance. I saw somebody who was a Street Fighter 4 fan go back and play Street Fighter 2, played Super Turbo, and they're like, this game is stupid. It's so dumb. Like, there's like no hit confirms. Like, you can't do this, you can't do that. This game is stupid, right? Like you don't want to create divides. You know what I mean? You just, like, let people enjoy the games that they enjoy, honestly. So, how do I balance work and commentary analysis? This is my job. I don't have a 24/7 FGC SNQ, which is why I am broke AF. And which is why, if they get rid of food stamps and Obamacare, I'm fucked. That's all I'm going to say, okay? Like, that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay? That's all I'm going to be able to say that. Yeah, it's just like, let people enjoy their games. Let people enjoy their games. And again, like, you see what guys like Pat the Flip are doing for Exert, right? They run they run every Tuesday. They run Exert tournaments, and they're running Exert tournaments all over the place. They even have beginner tournaments for all the Exert players so that they can work their way up into the harder goal. Like, they're doing a great job, promoting the scene they love. Obviously, that's hard to do because obviously you do need to dedicate a lot of time to do that. But it takes one person, right? If you truly love your scene, and as much as I make fun of Street Fighter Cross Tekken, there's that one guy out there who's like always doing all this stuff for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right? Was it Psycho Blue, or I forgot his name? I'm sorry, apologize. He's in my chat a lot too, because that's why I tease Cross Tekken a lot when he's around. But he's doing so much. It takes one person. And if you feel like you can be that person and you truly love your scene, I mean, why not try it? Especially if your game has good online netcode, right? Obviously, it's different for a lot of games like Soul Calibur 6. Like, there's really not much we can do. But even then, Saban Deos and Big Papa Chunk are still working their asses off keeping Soul Calibur alive, right? You can enjoy your game without having to dump on the other games. Like I said, I will fight with these companies to try to make it so they support older games too, because I think that would be really, really cool. I think that would be sick. But, let's see here. I don't think so. These people around during Melee Brawl debacle. To be fair, White Lens, while there are Brawl supporters out there, Brawl was completely antithetical to Smash, right? Like, they literally tried to break the game so that it couldn't be competitive. It was slow and tripping. Like, once you add tripping to the game, like, it's so hard to be a competitive fan and like Brawl. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of people out there who do appreciate Brawl because it was maybe one of the first ones they were competitive with, et cetera, right? But like, literally tripping, if you guys don't know, is there's just a random probability your character will fall over and be vulnerable. Like, that's just it. Like, during the whole match, there's nothing that contributes to it except just complete RNG of a moment where your character may just fall over. And why would that put in there? To make it less competitive. So I like, there is like some justification to the frustration of that era. So, I get that one. Clearly, I get that one. But, but yeah, That era was a crazy era, dude. Oh, stun was random in ST. Yeah, sometimes you could shake out of it faster than other. The amount of dizzy your character got by every hit was random. There were a lot of randomness in Super Turbo. But, again, Super Turbo players who play the game will tell you that it really doesn't affect the outcome. Even though that moves do random damage, etc., etc., it really doesn't affect it that much. The differences are so minuscule that, like, if you are going to blame the random dizzy or the random damage on why you lost, trust me, that's not why you lost. That's all I'll say about those games. Right. Random in a set. So basically, here's the base damage and the base stun amount, and then the variance is a fixed variance between the two. That's the damage, right? So base damage of a jump attack would be this, and it can randomize anywhere around there. Can it get to a point where it's ridiculously low, sometimes ridiculously high? Yeah. I've seen matches where someone gets hit with a jump kick and they're just like, ooh, and you just watch their life drain. You're like, what the hell, dude? Like, it happens. It happens. Yeah, Reapers versus Angels, although that usually was like how high your stun was. And if you were really close to stun and got hit by a high stun move, it would push you into the threshold of Grim Reaper. If that move did less stun, it might throw you into Stars or Angels instead, etc., etc. I don't think it was like truly random which stun you got. You can't really do 100% damage with the hold moves in Super Turbo, even if the opponent doesn't fight back, unless I think if you have programmable controllers that can do flawlessly human Oh yeah, Honda. I fought the computer Honda before. Round one, fight. Ding, ding, ding. And that was it. Like, you just watch your life go, but it wasn't like he would hold you and go, and hold you the entire time. Literally, the first squeeze drained 80% of your life. Like, even if you shook out of the computer, like, right away, you would have lost 80% of your life from one squeeze. Like, it wasn't that the computer would just hold you in there. And in fact, even in MVC2, I think there's a bug that Spiral can actually do a hold throw. And if you don't know about it, like, and don't properly fight against it, like, Spiral can actually drain, like, 70% of your life if you do it right. Oh, man. Commando can as well when he does a throw, basically. Okay. Nice. Oh, man. But yeah, so, you know what? There's really nothing else left to say here. I kind of summed up everything there. So yeah, again, I get it. Get where a lot of the hate is coming from. And I do think that offense is too strong these days in fighting games. I would like to see, like I said, when V-Shift was added to Street Fighter V, it made a huge difference. It made a huge difference for the top players. Maybe not even as much for the mid-range players because they didn't understand its usage as well. But for the top players, like, it made a big difference. It made a big difference for a lot of players feeling like the game's offense was toned down a little. And so right now, between the heat system, the drive system, and everything that Strive is right now, a lot of people are frustrated. And, you know, it is one of the things that makes me excited about City of the Wolves as well, because City of the Wolves has all sorts of crazy offensive madness, but there is a lot of defensive madness in that game as well. So City of the Wolves might be the closest thing we'll get in a while to maybe what people are looking for. Who knows? Maybe City of the Wolves will explode and take off like crazy because it'll be one of the first fighting games in a long time that isn't just offense, you know? We'll see. We'll see what happens. So anyways, that'll be all for this topic here. I went on over an hour about this topic. So I'll talk about these couple of other things. If you're watching on YouTube, just take a look for these things. Those things will probably pop out a little bit. Again, not much to say about the Virtua Fighter stuff, but we'll talk about the CPT stuff as well. Hope you guys enjoyed that. For those of you here on Twitch, please continue to like and subscribe. I don't put a lot of likes and subscribes in my streams or on my YouTube videos. I don't remind people to follow and do all those things a lot because I just don't want to annoy you with it. But that stuff really makes a big difference for us trying to survive and trying to live. So if you guys can support, I would appreciate that very much. It does feel weird to ask for likes. Where are the cats? Jasmine's, oh, they're both right here. They're both literally sitting like on the floor right here. Oh, where did Nathan go? Well, Jasmine, oh. Hi. Hi, hungry boy. Oh. Hi, hungry boy. You're a bad cat. You're a bad cat. You got into my trash can earlier today. And you are a bad cat. But I didn't yell at you. I didn't yell at you, Nathan, today. I didn't yell at you. So, you know. He's so cuddly. Like I said, it's so weird. One of the things that I love about animals so much, and you see this from a lot of YouTube videos, even though, you know, obviously cats don't like being hugged because they don't like being restrained, it makes them feel uncomfortable, but animals really do love physical touch, right? There's something universal about living creatures that just appreciate physical touch and understand what that means. It's like there's something just in every animal's DNA that, like, if you want to show, you know, that you trust someone, that you like physical touch. And recently, I've been using Nathan as a pillow. I was always scared to do that because of my fat head and he's a cat. But, man, when I actually, like, when he's lying on the couch and I sleep on his, like, backside, I can't sleep on his front because that restricts his breathing. But if I sleep on, like, his backside, like, down here, use this part as a pillow down there, dude, he loves it. He just starts purring. He just, like, falls asleep. And he's just, like, so happy. He starts headbutting me and rubbing me when I sit there and sleep on him like that. I used to, like, keep my head propped up because I didn't want to, like, press on him. But for some reason, if I actually let the gravity pull my head down a little bit, he likes it a lot. He really, really likes it. And he gets super affectionate. The funniest thing about it is, though, as soon as I get up, the first thing he does immediately is clean himself where I was laying down. He's like, I love your physical touch, Daddy, but your face is too goddamn oily, so I need to clean myself now. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, no, Jasmine does that. Jasmine asks to be petted all the time, Forrest. She'll lie on my chest. I do that thing where I'm literally petting them like they're a large dog. Like, you can hear that, right? Like, it sounds like I'm hurting the cat, but they both love that. They both really like that. And so with Jasmine, I'll just start petting her like that really hard. And every time I stop, the claws come out and she just starts scratching my face. She just starts scratching my face. She's like, and just like, dude, and it hurts sometimes too. I'm like, Jasmine, stop. So then I just like start petting her again. I stop and she reaches out. Then the claws come out and she's just like, I'm like, okay. Oh, man. Oh, sorry. You came back to me describing my cat. Because as soon as I lie down on him, he loves it. But then as soon as I get up, he's got to clean all of my face oils off of him. He always immediately just starts cleaning himself. And I'm like, dude, I just showered. Dude, I'm clean. Like, come on, Nathan, come on. I don't smell that bad, do I? Anyways, that's enough here for now. We'll talk about these two topics a little bit later here for Twitch. But for those of you on YouTube, hope you like this. Hope you guys love the cat content that I have over here. Hope you guys appreciate when the cats stop by. I will have to feed them. So let's go ahead and close out. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please comment below. That helps. Again, I super apologize that I've been really bad with episodes, but I've been rendering a bunch of them. I'm about to get a bunch of them up on YouTube really soon. So expect a deluge of videos that I have been procrastinating on for a while. Again, November was a rough month. I was doom scrolling a lot because of the election. I got one of those notifications that was like, hey, in the past week, you used your phone this much every day. And I was like, oh, dear God. So, yeah, I know why I haven't been productive in the last few weeks. Hopefully, I'll fix that now. So expect a lot of cool stuff coming up in November here. I mean, I've been recording some X-Men Children of the Atom stuff on the Jay Chenzor stream. I should just put them up on YouTube just for fun. Why not? Like, I know they're like 30 seconds long, but still, I think it'd be fun to put those up there just for fun. So no editing, just drop them up there. Any case, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, the day this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.